All right. Good evening and welcome to the meeting of the Pioneer Valley Regional School District School Committee. Today is Thursday, July 18th. It is 6:05 and I'll call this meeting to order. It's taking place in the Pioneer Valley Regional School Library and online at through BNC TV. All of our members are present in the room, so we don't need to do a roll call at we call it attendance.
Yeah,
That's what that is.
not just me.
All right, and I don't see anyone here for citizens' comments. So, or would you like to?
Not as a citizen,
Oh,
just
yeah.
as an announcement. I have to leave early this evening. I didn't want anyone to think I was leaving unexpectedly, and I'll try to do it in between agenda items if possible.
Thank you, Gretchen. So, yeah, when you get up, we won't take it as a commentary.
I'm outing.
Sounds good. All right, so moving on to our approval of minutes for June
Here he is.
20th.
Yep. I just found that under absent committee members, Michelle's name
Oh.
is Michelle.
Oh, Michelle.
Michelle. And down in 4B, where you have alumni, that's only females.
Yeah.
So alumni and alumni. And that's it.
Okay. Does anyone else have any corrections?
Yep.
All right. So anyone like to make a motion to accept those minutes as amended?
I would like to make a motion to accept the Thursday, June 2024 meeting minutes as amended.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Great. Any abstention? 2 abstentions. Okay. So that passes. All right. Sounds good. And the minutes for June 25th, 2024, that was our retreat.
I'll move to accept the meeting minutes of June 25th.
So I wasn't there.
Mhm.
I'm not noted as not being there.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
5, 6, 7.
I will add that.
Second.
Okay. All right. Any other corrections? Yeah, okay. So, all right. Well, do we have a motion to accept
Yes.
them?
Yeah.
Okay. All
I
right.
moved it.
Great. And no other amendments? And all in favor? And that, any abstentions? 1 abstention. Okay. Great. All right. So we'll send those on. Okay, so our next item, Director of Finance report, and Jordan is remote, so.
Yeah, good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, here, let me just get both mics.
That helps.
Oh, yeah, please. If you get a third, that would be great.
You're wired for sound.
Thank you so much. This is the second to last report regarding the FY24 fiscal year that came to a close as of 6/30/24. So this report has a pretty good estimation of where we are on revenues and expenditures, but since the fiscal year ended on 6/30/24, I can see why people would say, well, why isn't it perfect yet? Well, we still have an opportunity to, move money to different funding sources, right? For example, you might move something onto a grant now that the picture is come fully into focus, or something like that. So, in terms of I think a closed estimate, I estimate total expenditures a little over $14,425,000, and total revenue. Now, the revenue is is finalized, so we've received everything we're going to receive. So total revenue of $14,758,250.53, which is a little more than $7,000 in budget, so that's good. Obviously, we reduced assessments based on our updated revenue assessments, and that ended up being pretty close to the truth, so that's good. That with those reduced assessments, we still hit our revenue budget. And overall, now I project a budget surplus of a little over $300,000. So nothing huge, but you know, I think it's good that we didn't have a ton of money budgeted that we in fact didn't need, and the revenue budget came in pretty close. So in terms of the revenue and expenditure picture, things are in good shape for the year, and everything will be finalized by the next report at the end of August. So things are in good shape, and you know, it's kind of just a busy time of year with closing everything up, getting prepared for the end of the year for excess and deficiency, and the audit, which should get underway towards the end of the summer. So we're going to be back on that schedule as well, which I know is important. The last couple of years we've been playing catch up, and now we're going to be back on the normal audit cycle. So things are in good shape. In terms of the lunch report, we're going to end up with a total operating profit of a little over $18,000 for the year. So again, our goal isn't to have some huge profit, so it's good that we lose money, of course, but there is a small profit at the end of the year, and we still have a significant fund balance in the lunch report. I know we've talked about that before, and once the year is closed out, I'll provide an update on where fund balance and the lunch fund stands. No budget transfers this time. Any questions?
Yes.
Go ahead, Karen. Yeah.
Jordan, I was wondering if you could explain the substitute lines, because I noted there were substitute lines for the elementary schools, but no substitute line for PVRS or special needs. That would be in the expenditure report.
Right. So the substitute lines of the two elementaries, the reason why they fall through. So there was, I guess, to start from the start. There was no substitute money budgeted in the general fund for any of the buildings because we had budgeted those to be placed all on the ESSER 3 grant, which we did. So the majority of almost all the substitute spending went on the ESSER 3 grant.
Okay.
At this point in now in the year, it looks like substitute spending was actually higher than we had anticipated. So what happens on the budget report is if there's nothing budgeted in a line, it generally won't pull the line unless it has a balance. So once the substitute line, once I stop pulling money from the general fund and putting it on the grant, there's a negative balance at both the elementary buildings, so that's why that line shows up. Whereas at PVRS, all of the substitutes were able to be put on the grant. So I had budgeted a certain amount for each school in the Pioneer Valley. Substitute spending actually came in right around what was budgeted, whereas both elementary schools came in, as you can see, several $1,000s higher than we had anticipated in substitute spending. So that's why they show up on the report. Does that make sense?
Yes, and now that we will no longer have ESSER funds, there will be separate lines for substitutes or not?
Yes.
Okay.
So in the FY25 budget, there is, I believe it is $55,000 at Bernardston, $52,000 at Northfield, and $55,000 at the high school, and that's all in the general fund. So that will show up on the much anticipated first FY25 expenditure report next month.
Okay. Thank you for the wonderful explanation.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you, Karen, for the questions.
So Jordan, I noticed that there are several items that still have 100% of the budget, budgeted amount. Like, let's see, central office travel, let's see. Yeah, some PD, I think principal PD for one of the elementary schools. There's maintenance of equipment and supplies. Are these, I guess, I was just curious what the reasons why we haven't spent any of that.
Yeah, I mean, and some things in the FY25 budget, I've tried to take that into account and reduce those. Like, for example, the principal PD at Bernardston, Cindy said, you know, I'm going to, when she had made her decision to retire, she said, you know, I'm not going to use the line. You know, she's just such an honorable person. She was like, well, I don't want to develop myself by retiring. And so no one, you know, discouraged her from doing it, but that was a decision she made. And then some of the other lines, you know, although, like for example, central office travel, you know, it's put there in the instance where someone may do reimbursable travel. You know, for example, someone has to go to Greenfield to Staples to get an emergency supplement of paper. So the money's there, and I try to adjust it each year when I see that money isn't being used, so that you know, our money is all being put to good use, productive use, rather than just sitting there. But in general, oftentimes it's just that things weren't being used. And I can give you another good example of one where it didn't get used much, and Cheryl George, a very astute person, brought up that because the shared physical education supplies at the elementary doesn't show up in people's report, they sometimes don't use all the money. Whereas with the shared music supplies, it often gets used because Lynette is such a veteran and she knows from her years of great music instruction where all the money is, that it was used, but some of the physical education wasn't. And so what we talked about and what we'll bring to you at the next meeting is just taking proportionally the supplies money and putting them in each building so it both shows up on the report and it makes it so that that, you know, that money is more likely to get used, and just that, okay, we know this amount is for this building, rather than there being like a statute of the commons in one building grabs all the money one year. So we talked about that, and that makes sense. And Kathy Laraway, and another, you know, person who can give you great historical knowledge, explained that the reason that went to that is in the past people had taken supplies from one building to the next, so they put it in a shared column, because like a teacher who taught in multiple buildings would say take their tambourines and bag them up and put them in, and I mean that just shows you know, what great educators we have and the ability to be frugal. But I was saying in general, we don't have as many people traveling, and two, let's just have the stuff where it needs to be. And if we have to add money in future budgets, we'll do that, rather than having to take our show on the road. So those are just some examples where when we see them, one thing, if it's just never going to get used, we want to reduce it so that we can put money in other lines that's more productive. And two, if there are administrative changes like the great idea Cheryl had, we'll go ahead and implement those. So you probably got more than you wanted there, Raina, sorry, but
No, that's good.
some examples.
No, that's helpful. I just, wanted to make sure I knew what that was all about. So that's good. All right. Any other questions?
No.
Do you have anything more for us, Jordan?
That is it for now. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so moving on to the chair's report. There are no transfers this month. It was a placeholder. I asked for the placeholder. But then I forgot to say. All right. Let's Sounds good. So I attended the MASC Summer Institute last weekend. As always, they do a great job. It was a good time. It was just Friday evening and Saturday morning, so it was a quick there and back, but it was very informative. I'll be sharing a document with my notes and the links to the slides once I get the electronic copies of the slides. They've promised those to us, so we'll be. So I'll be sending that along. I went to a workshop on using your goals and helping to budget, and then there was also, gosh, I don't remember now all of it. Such a whirlwind. There was also a session on collective bargaining, and a speaker on community relations and communications, and so that was really informative, very interesting. So I'll be sharing that with all of you. And then I received a letter from the DESE Commissioner that the DESE Commissioner approved the salaries that we negotiated with both Jordan and Patricia. So those have been approved and they're all in order. I have the letters here if anyone would like to read them. And then the deadline to be on the ballot for any of our open seats is June 23rd, so next Tuesday. So anybody who's planning to run. July 23rd. Did I say June? Sorry. I'm not oriented. It's a little too- my brain's been cooked a little bit too much this past week. All right, so that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Gosh, things have been busy. We held a group meeting of administrators with representatives from the Yonder Corporation. I think last week. We are determined to have a clean, well-publicized implementation of the pouches. So wanted to make you aware that we're already on that with them. Update on Cooper's internship with me. He is sending out a survey. It will be in the district update. He's contacting all 3 towns to see if we can get it on town websites. It's going out to all current families, staff, and Pioneer students. The goal is to get a database going of alumni from Pioneer. So please encourage people to respond. It's a brief, he's done a great job. It's a brief, very brief survey, and it will be confidential. So if folks say, yes, please add me to the database, they can know no one is going to get that information until Cooper or someone else on the newly revived Alumni Association gets written permission. He'll reach back out and say, would you give permission? So that is happening. Summer is a time for safety planning. Our colleagues from the State Police and Franklin County Sheriff's Office are meeting with me tomorrow. They're meeting with me again next Friday, and then they're coming to our admin retreat. We are continuing to update our overall safety planning booklet. The outdoor new cameras have been installed. We are still confirming locations for the indoor cameras that we bought with money from the emergency/safety grant. The swipe card, I don't know what you call those, the little swipe card,
Key card.
but the thing on the wall, yeah. Those have been installed.
And the reader, the reader.
The reader,
Yeah,
thank you.
key card.
So that's going to be a big change. Very few people will have keys, and we're going to rekey the exterior doors. No more keys, except for a super small group of people. What we have to figure out next is what type of access do different groups of people have, i.e. Faculty, which days, what time to time. Our coaches will have access during the season that they coach for certain times, and then their access will end with the swipe card. So we'll have a record of everyone who enters, and we'll have much better camera coverage. So more information about that.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Who will have access to provide or take away access?
Great question. I think that will be building principals under my supervision, managed by the administrative assistants.
Thank you.
What about access to individual classrooms?
That is not a key card.
Is-
Individual classrooms continue to
Oh,
be keys.
okay.
That will stay.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Let's see. We are already planning for new educator orientation, which will take place over 2 days in late August. And I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
Great, thank you. All right, so moving on to business. So we met in June to talk about some self-assessment and some goals as a school committee. And the group that met, we came up with a few goals for the committee specifically and more broadly for the district. The committee goals were to, the governance working group will complete a handbook for new members and present the final draft for approval prior to the November 2024 election. So we want to have that in place for any new members that might be coming on board, and also as a refresher for members who are staying on. Second, members will proactively seek feedback during the school year from the community on relevant issues by making use of available avenues for outreach. And there are some ideas that we're not necessarily saying everyone has to do these, but these are some ideas of ways, some avenues for outreach. So first, asking the superintendent to include a request for comment in the district update on relevant items that the school committee is working on. Scheduling a meet and greet or coffee hour in member towns. Consider holding some regular meetings in Bernardston and Leiden. Mingle at school-sponsored community events, and hosting a table at open houses and orientation nights. This is not obviously an exhaustive list, so if anyone has ideas about how they'd like to reach out to the community, we're more than happy to consider those. And then the committee will create a structure and schedule for regular meetings with the Student Advisory Committee. By October 2024, the committee will create a schedule for advisory committee meetings for the school year, a standing agenda, and determine which members will attend the meetings. And then district goals, things that we would like to see work done on, begin the process of creating a district improvement plan, schedule regular reports on student achievement measures at school committee meetings, and support a positive work culture and employee engagement. Comments? Yes.
Yes, as a person who attended this, I recall that we had some discussion of focusing on middle school, and I did not see that, excuse me, in the minutes, and certainly not on the committee goals, because we agreed to those as a group, but I just wanted people to be aware that there was a discussion of that.
Thank you. Yeah. And I can actually include that in the minutes. Yeah,
That'd be good.
I'll make
Thank you.
a note of that.
May I ask a question, please?
Yes.
The consider holding some regular meetings in Bernardston and Leiden. Are those just some of our normal school committee meetings? We just hold them there? I'm just
That's
curious as to
so-
like what that means exactly.
That's a good question. It can mean that. It could mean that if we as a committee felt that that was important, an important way to reach out. There are some challenges to having meetings in other locations.
Yeah.
Partly for BNCTV, it's a heavier lift for Tyler and the gang.
I just
in
want to know what
terms of-
that means then.
Yeah, so it could mean that. I know in the past, the school committee would rotate
Yeah.
to the different, hold meetings like once a quarter in each of the elementary schools. That's something that we've talked about reviving without any resolution, but that's a possibility. Holding subcommittee meetings in the elementary schools, just it's a little more. It might be more accessible depending on who's on the subcommittee, and a little less travel time if you're going to Bernardston versus if you're coming from Leiden.
Yeah.
But that's the idea.
Thank you for giving it more context.
Yeah, no problem.
I can share another thing that, so the DA district Agreement. I want to say assessment. I don't know, I have taxes on my brain. District agreement committee. I will be reaching out to see if we can attend the Freetown larger meeting, just to build some community engagement. And, you know, it may be a difficult meeting, it may not. You know, we're just there to say this is what we're working on. So they have their next meeting September 12th. I don't know if we'll be on that meeting or we'll have another meeting. But the district agreement, as you know, is going to involve a lot of community support. So that's just another idea. Yep.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Any edits to the language, or I know I was so excited in the meeting that we actually had goals that I didn't like missed the step of like, oh, we should make those into SMART goals.
I have a question.
So, yes.
So I was there, and apparently I don't remember. And so why did we leave Northfield out of holding meetings in Bernardston and Leiden?
This building is located in Northfield, so that.
Oh, right.
But
There you go.
but,
It's in my town.
you know, it's a different. Yeah, I mean, it's across the river, so Northfield
I
Elementary.
feel like I'm in my
Yeah.
town.
So, you know, we could hold meetings at the different at the
you.
different
Yeah.
Schools
in the
even.
at the different schools.
Yeah.
In my mind,
that's
it's
kind of
in
what I was
Bernardston.
thinking.
In my mind, the school's in Bernardston.
Yeah.
I live across the
Yeah, I agree.
Oh,
with
it
you.
sounds like a
I know,
But I
takeover.
was thinking elementary school.
Is this a coup?
Yeah, because you have to cross the river to get to Northfield.
Yeah, exactly.
Not if you live over here. Anyway.
I have a something to consider as well, because when I was reading number 2 and I was not present, it's basically, I read it as members will proactively seek feedback during the school year from the community. You got to run into somebody and be, you know, or just send messages out and things like that. So I just want to know if you guys would want to recommend the available approved avenues. And so I still feel like, am I able to go and just solicit feedback freely as a school committee, or does it have to go through an approval chain and come from the committee as a whole? Like I've always sort of been hesitant if.
I think it depends on the who, right?
So that's what, so I just want clarification. If someone reads this and says yes, it's freedom. Right, but it's, so I'm just saying it's nothing in here says an approved channel or something of that nature, instead of just go freely solicit
Or is it
feedback.
that we need to better define the community, right? Like who can we solicit feedback from freely?
Yeah, that's a good question. Go ahead.
So in my town, there have recently been some interesting conversations with one of the town boards about governance and independence and going through the chain of command. I wonder if this is a bigger conversation than the committee is equipped to deal with tonight.
Sure.
And seeking guidance from MASC about exactly this excellent question. How does a school committee member seek feedback from their community without engaging in unsanctioned activity that really should have the imprimatur of the chair or the full committee? So that's an interesting conversation to explore.
And I think we were also, part of the conversation or the thought process was that when subcommittees are working on different, like, we used the cell phone policy as an example where the subcommittee asked the superintendent to solicit feedback in the district agreement, district update. So, you know, inviting community members to give their feedback on this issue that they were working on. So I think it's, it is a bigger question, I think, than what we may have.
And again, this doesn't need to be tonight, but I'm out at the grocery store, let's say, and a parent comes up to me and says, hey, I want to give you my opinion on X. That's okay, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Just making sure.
Right.
Yeah, it
That's
happens a lot.
Yeah, that does. It does happen a lot.
And it's good, and we want to invite people to feel comfortable approaching us out in public.
Good.
You know, would any, you know, but I think no individual on the committee should just be sending out a survey.
No,
Yeah,
no,
kind
no.
of
It's
thing.
a group thing that says, hey,
Yeah.
everybody, and like on behalf of the committee as a person. So that's just
Yeah.
clarifying parameters around what it is.
So that's
that
a,
you-
yeah, no, that's a good,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And actually, that's a good, I kind of want to piggyback on that a little bit too, because I feel like there's been some times where I've emailed you, Raina, but I've only because I don't want to email anybody else. Is that okay to just continue just emailing
Yep.
you directly? And, okay.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, that's always a good, good way to do it. Okay, so that might need some clarification, that particular one. And I can get some feedback from MASC, and then also, and that may be, yeah, that would be something that, just to clarify what the parameters are. Yeah. Okay. Any other comments? All right, so we'll defer this to our next meeting.
And another
As a
option
discussion
could
item.
be to vote on it tonight with the instruction to the chair or
Yes.
vice chair to seek guidance from MASC
Yeah.
to clarify appropriate outreach. I mean, that way you're done with the item.
Yeah.
And you
Okay,
can
I like that
Yep.
idea.
Yeah.
So the language used in here does make sense. It just we can just further get clarification.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yes.
no, I think that's good, clarify those parameters.
Did a webinar on
And, yeah, this was actually,
this. Yeah.
some of those issues were covered at the, one of the workshops that I attended last week. I was like, oh, yeah, no, this is sounding familiar. So, all right, so would someone like to make a
Yeah,
motion? Yep.
I'll move that we accept the school committee goals with further guidance from MASC on outreach.
I'll second it.
Thank you. All right, all in favor? And that passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, so on to our superintendent's goals.
All these goals. I would like to start by thanking Michelle and Melissa for meeting with me the other night to review these goals and provide feedback, and thank you to Raina, who had previously provided feedback about the goals. So in front of you, you have a student learning goal, a professional practice goal, and a district improvement goal. I tried to respond to the feedback from the retreat in establishing the goals. The format you have in front of you is not typical for superintendent goals. I happen to have had the good fortune of working under an enlightened superintendent who used this type of format, and I've picked it up. All of my administrators will be using this format because it simply maps things out so clearly, and it's easy to keep track of. So I want you to know that this is something good that we're doing.
Appreciated.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I'm hoping that this format also helps administrators encourage educators when they're developing their goals, for instance, to think in advance about the evidence they will share. Because if you do that intellectual work up front in August and early September, you're done, right? You
Yeah.
figured it out, then you just enact the steps. So for the student learning goal, we really need to update our academic intervention programming in reading literacy and math at the elementary level. We've got these two great math interventionists, Nolan Kitfield and Lauren Clary, coming on board. We have excellent reading interventionists, Caroline Page at BES, Jen Edwards at NES, and as someone who has supervised the overhaul of a literacy intervention program in Brookline, I am aware that sort of as the overall under management of our programming, we haven't kept pace with having a well-articulated intervention program. So what does that mean? We need to clarify what the purpose of intervention is and what some of our fundamental beliefs about intervention programming are. I'll just be quick. One is that intervention should lead to accelerated progress. Kids go into intervention and they come out. There should be no lifers in intervention, and sometimes kids get stuck in that. There needs to be equity of service. The kids who need intervention the most should get it, regardless of their grade level. So if our grade 6 next year in the elementary schools has a higher level of need than grades K1, 2, 3, 4, 5, grade 6 should get more intervention services until they're up to speed. We need clarity about which assessments we're using, what our benchmarks are, who sits at the table to determine intervention services, frequency of intervention, length of this. So this gets into the weeds. We have to tackle all of it. So my hope is that this goal is, very much in collaboration with my team. So while it's my goal, a whole lot of this work will be conducted by my team. So my hope is that 80% of the elementary students participating in reading and math intervention programs this year will show accelerated progress. This is not a squeaky clean SMART goal, because I can't say this amount of progress because I don't know what assessment we're using.
That was going to be my question.
I don't know.
And will it be, it won't be totally subjective, right?
What? Say more, Karen.
Subjective means based on individuals' observations as opposed to some assessment that's a measure that's been vetted.
So it needs to be a good measure. I don't, we've begun already talking about some of this. We may or may not have the very best assessment tools in place. I know we have online standardized assessment tools that we use with elementary kids in literacy. I have as yet to sit next to a child while they take the assessment. I'm usually not a fan of those. I don't think they're nearly as rich in terms of the data they yield. I'd much prefer to have a one-on-one teacher implemented literacy assessment, but that takes time, money. So again, this is not a traditional SMART goal in that I don't know which assessment tool we're going to use, so I can't suggest how much progress kids will make.
Well, so the underlying question is, how will anybody else know that there's been progress?
Other people in the building?
No, in us or the
Okay.
community?
So we'll have to figure out which assessments we're using, and then I can report on it.
Okay. So where is that in the timeline?
Let's see. Number one, continue review of prior documentation of existing intervention procedures, programs, materials, continue identification of key areas for improvement. So a key area would be what assessment are we using? And it may be one assessment for kids to get into intervention, but 5 months down the road, we might say, actually, we're ready to start using a different tool for a reading assessment. There you go. Yep. Yep.
Brian? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just curious. Do you know what the generic test you're using at the elementary level is?
I think it's FastBridge.
FastBridge. Okay.
Yep.
Just curious.
Yep.
None of them are great, but
Yeah.
it's good to get feedback on the different ones.
Yeah. And a quick note here, and I explained this to Michelle and Melissa the other night. So in Brookline, as the literacy coordinator for the elementary buildings, which run pre-K through 8, and some of them have up to 1,000 students, and there are 8 buildings, I supervised a team of 21 or 22, sometimes 23, fully credentialed reading specialists. Brookline is a well-resourced district. The changes we made radically improved the professional lives of the reading specialists because it empowered them to provide services in the way that they knew would have an impact. For example, for the younger students, when they went into reading intervention, it was 5 days a week, no questions asked. 5 days a week, and no group could be larger than 3 students, because at those grade levels, the research is clear, when you go above 3 kids, acceleration slows. So, a lot of changes here will not happen overnight. This is a group goal, but I'm pretty excited about it because this is part and parcel of my intent to focus on teaching and learning starting this year. So, other questions about this particular goal?
No, but as you choose assessments, will you keep the school committee informed?
Yes, and that's part of Kate's role also, because
Okay.
you have asked me to supervise her in mapping what are the assessments we're using across all curriculum areas at all grades. That's quite a lift. It will take some time, but we do need to and intend to report back to you on it.
Okay, thank you.
And also on that point, Patricia and I have already had discussions about when in the calendar we would insert
Okay.
updates
Good,
for assessment.
thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Okay, professional practice. So, as we are going to be relentless, it's been 3 years of finance and operations, now we need to turn to program, the front of the house. I am going to make sure that I am out in classrooms observing instruction continuously, and I want to do that in collaboration with my colleagues, so with the principals and also with Director of Teaching and Learning, Director of Student Services, Early Childhood Coordinator, and our Director of Finance and Operations. Jordan is online. Jordan and I discussed this. He is a former teacher, and money means everything, right, in terms of what we are able to offer. Jordan has great insights about instruction. Let's get him out into the classrooms. Let's make sure that he is seeing what other people are seeing. It also helps him build credibility with faculty and other staff so that they know he's aware of what's happening. So, Jordan, I don't know if you want to say anything about that, but.
So I think it's just a good opportunity to, keep in mind learning, to your point, what's going on in the building, and hopefully not only will it contribute to the learning community, but also make it so we make better budgets, right, with even more knowledge. So I think it's tons of benefits. So.
Great, thank you. So I will have office hours in every building once a month, and then I'm going to be out. We've already started setting my recurring meeting schedule with the principals and the district administrators. The goal is to have them join me and a principal once a month, or sometimes just myself and the administrator without the principal. And the point is, we are developing a shared knowledge base about what instruction looks like, and understanding and improving our capacity to help people improve their instruction through debriefing conversations. So that's, yeah.
Is this going to become part of the structured assessment, teacher assessment?
The educator
Annual-
evaluation?
Yeah, right.
The purpose of this is not to contribute to educator
Okay.
evaluation. So
Okay.
I can, in my message to, because I'll share when you approve my goals, I will share them with all staff. And I think it would be important for me to make clear, when I'm out in the classroom, I'm not gathering information for your evaluation. That's not the purpose. The
Okay.
purpose is all these other things.
That's excellent.
Yes, that's great. But because there was reference to formative assessment documents.
Karen, tell me where you are.
Number 8.
Oh, under evidence.
Oh, yeah, why would that be there? Yeah, says the woman who typed it. Yeah, strike
Is
that.
it the-
Yeah,
Is it-
that's a-
If the documents need change or updating?
Right, update on status of joint observation, the implement efforts to improve. No, I think that's a mistake.
Okay.
I don't see why that would be there.
Okay,
And thanks for catching that, Karen.
sure.
Good with that one?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And lastly, this is work I'm going to do with you. We're going to get a district improvement plan done this year. We can call it a district strategic plan, improvement plan, whatever you decide.
Yeah.
Okay, so overall, here's what I'm thinking. I will draft a process and a timeline. And then I'll start, and then we'll work with a small group. You'll identify an advisory committee, get ourselves set up, figure out who will, among the family community, faculty community, will be joining that work, but not actually begin those outreach meetings and really great conversations until January. Here's why. Later in the meeting, we're going to talk about reopening the conversation regarding bringing 6th grade up to Pioneer. That work would need to happen this fall so that you could make a decision by December, January at the latest, because if grade 6 is going to come up here, we need to give the schools and families plenty of time. The other is the district agreement, as Michelle mentioned. There's work to be done this fall around that. I am leery of having 3 major district-wide projects happening at the same time. So I'm suggesting let's get ourselves all queued up, get it nice and good, and then start the work. We don't have to belabor it. 3 months of some good meetings, good surveys, good outreach, good conversation, you'll get the information you need to make decisions about a strategic plan and then have it done and ready for a vote. I've been meeting with all 3 principals. Annie and Sarah are already started on their entry planning process. I have told them I'm going to be saying to school committee, I think for them, for their school improvement plans, they can't even begin that until they finish their entry plans and report to you. But maybe they could begin queuing up a school council this fall, and maybe their school council's first pieces of work are being on the district strategic improvement plan group, because then they will have firsthand knowledge of what the district's goals are as they then go back to their buildings to work on that was good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So that's the idea. I'll get a process drafted, bring it to you. You vote on an advisory group. We get ourselves queued up and do the work January through March.
Great. Ambitious.
Yes, I have no questions about this, but I was going to ask, and you partially answered, is this realistic, doable?
Yeah, thanks,
thank-
Karen. Yeah. So we're not doing negotiations this year, which is huge. The facilities master planning process, I was just thinking of this. At this point last year, Jordan and I were in frequent conversations with Canon, mapping out the dates for all of those forums and meetings, and we were spending time reviewing survey questions, and we're not doing that this fall. The biggest things for me will be district agreement. That's going to be a big lift, and the grade 6. So I think if we hold off on the district improvement one, I think I can manage the other ones.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions? So I appreciate this process. It's really great to see these documents. These are really helpful. It gives us a very clear idea of what you'll be doing this this year, what we can expect, and also what's expected of us to help further this process. So I think that's really.
And I'd like to say that I'm hopeful that with more structure, there'll be more involvement for people to want to join the school committee. Because I think if people, the world is very different, and people are looking at outcomes, goals, they want to know the plan, whatever buzzword we're putting on it. And I think if we have all this in writing, I think that people will see, oh, we're not just coming to a meeting and discussing whatever. We have a calendar, we know where we're going and all that. So that is what is making me hopeful that we will have more participation from community members, because we cannot do all this work with a few people, So.
And I know, from firsthand, when there's more structure and there's more organization, it just makes this work much easier.
Yeah.
So we're not having to each month dream up what are we going to talk about, and we're not slaves to the emergencies that come up too. So we have more of more structure to be able to fall back on and to give us a chance to tackle the bigger picture, not just the day-to-day stuff.
Yeah.
And Michelle, to
Right.
that end, I'll share these via the district update as well.
Oh, great.
Good. All right. So we will need to vote to accept the superintendent's goals. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Excellent. All right. Any further discussion? All right. All in favor? That passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We look forward to it. All right. So our next item. All right. Grade 6 move to PVRS.
So you have a, sorry.
Go ahead.
You have a memo. When I arrived, it's been 3 years, right? Next month, the end of next month, it will be 3 years,
Wow.
right? Gosh, a lot had happened in the year prior to my arrival about the grade 6 transition. And it became clear to me very quickly that we were not in a position as an administrative group to manage that kind of transition. Too many open questions, and we had not responded to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. They had sent us a list of 2 pages of questions. I think we can entertain the conversation at this point. We have 3 strong principles now in place. Our money is much more clear. We're doing a better job of figuring out staffing levels. We've got a director of teaching and learning in place. I have confidence in her ability to help manage the programmatic end of this. One of the points I made 3 years ago when I discussed this with you in the fall was that something like a grade configuration really is better, is more productively addressed when it is embedded in a larger conversation about things like facilities and long-term planning. And we went through our facilities planning, master planning process, and our consultant said, you know, in the meantime, while you're figuring out whether you're going to do this big building project, you might want to consider bringing some grades up to Pioneer. You've got empty space here. NES and BES in particular is tight for space, so you might want to consider that. So I'm asking the school committee to consider approving my moving forward with opening up the conversation. And that would mean a process of bringing people together to discuss, should we bring 6th grade up here? What are the pros and cons? What would be involved? I've already spoken with Jordan. We have to figure out what the financial impact, if any, would be. Kate would need to work on this. Curriculum-wise, it makes a lot of sense. Just off the bat, much elementary curriculum is written for K through 5. Not as much is written K through 6. So, without getting into the merits of the conversation, I think it would make sense for the district at this point to reopen the conversation, do it well, do it in a transparent way, really bring in people and invite them, and make clear that if the school committee eventually approves it, and DESE would need to approve, right, that DESE absolutely has final say over the decision, that we could make the transition well. Because, yeah, I'll stop.
Would we change it to a middle school? Would we call it a middle school?
That's an open question.
Okay, that would come from
Yep.
meeting and all that. Because I have been learning more about the way, I don't know if it's always been this way, but there's more and more K1, 2, sometimes 3, or 3, 4, 5, and then 6, 7, 8, and then 9 through 12. That, and I'm sure they're doing it east of here because there's more children, you know, that's all I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
But that's what I've seen a lot of lately between my grandchildren and my friends' grandchildren and stuff like that. So it's just interesting. And I understand, and who said it? Someone said it here at a meeting. Was it Kate? Or, I don't know, that the curriculum is going that way. You know, like the curriculum that you either buy or something might be geared more towards K1, 2, or 1, 2, 3, or something.
I'm not aware of that, yeah.
Yeah, someone said it, and I thought, oh, that's an interesting concept, you know, so. My reasoning last time is I just did not feel that we were prepared. There wasn't anything in writing, you know, there wasn't goals. Here we go again. There wasn't a real written plan. And, I mean, I'm not opposed to it if I hear the rationale and the data. But that's why I voted against it last time. just wasn't much I could go for.
I know when the conversation, when I was part of the conversation previously, I also felt like it was rushed, it wasn't planned very well. There were a lot of unanswered questions. And, there wasn't a clear sense of what the programming would be,
Right.
or what the curriculum would actually look like. So I think those made it very hard to support previously. And I also felt it was very important to give the fifth grade families and students an opportunity to know ahead of time if that's going to be their last year of elementary school. The teachers and the families would plan that year differently. That's not something you should find out a couple months before your fifth grade year ends. So
all of that work would be done and a vote would be December or January of next year. It would be implemented in the fall of 2025.
So there are options.
Oh, I'm sorry, there's no second page.
If the school committee were to, let's say, approve at the December meeting, it would need to go to the commissioner. But if we have been working with the department all along, and if we've demonstrated to them, yep, we saw that question, check, 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 and if the feedback had been, this is looking good, we anticipate, I think if we knew by January, I think we could work with families and schools in a way that the transition could happen for the following September.
I immediately thought of more space in the elementary schools meant more opportunity for choice. I just feel, and I don't know if that's on the table or not, but I just thought that would help build in the future to stay at Pioneer if there was more opportunity for the K through 5th to be in the Pioneer system. I know a couple of people had reached out to me about the choice seats. We're just not able to get in. And so it seems like there's a drive from external towns to come here. And if that opened up,
That's an interesting
theoretically,
point.
some of more seats, then it's...
Yeah.
So I will motion to direct the superintendent to re-engage the PVRSD community, including students, staff, and families in a conversation about moving grade 6 to PVRS.
I'll second.
thank you. All right, any further discussion? All right, all in favor? And any opposed? All right, one opposed and no abstentions. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right. So now I will entertain a motion to go into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, 2 and 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the Teachers Association and support personnel if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect, and on the bargaining position of the public body, and the chair so declares, which I do. And also sections 22F and G for approval of executive session minutes, June 20th, 2024.
So moved.
And to come back out,
And yes, we will be returning to open session. And will Jordan be joining us?
yeah.
And the superintendent? All right, so moved. We have a second?
Second.
And this requires a roll call vote. Sorry.
Oh.
Roll call.
Sylvia Cummings, yes.
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
Michelle Jeruso, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
And
Stephen
Raina-
Martin, yes.
Yes, and Raina Dasta, yes.
And do you want to make note that Sarah Kearns, municipal representative, is joining us?
Yes, Sarah Kearns will be joining us also as our municipal. Great, welcome back to open session. We have a couple of items for a vote. The item A, the educator evaluation date, evaluator dates, that is tabled for now. The second item, the therapy dog handler vote, or MOU for therapy dog handler.
We just, so I move to approve the MOU for the therapy dog handler.
I will second.
All in favor? And that passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, and our next item.
I motion to approve the MOU for the work hours of the 2024-2025 school year.
I'll second.
Thank you. And all in favor? Great, and that passes unanimously as well.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. On to our personnel update.
Well, the list is smaller, you can see. We've done almost all of our hiring. Very experienced speech and language pathologist coming into the district. Ashton McKnight is returning to the district. Kara Kuntz she's an experienced teacher. Nick Rockwood, young and enthusiastic, new music teacher, band director. Jeffrey Deitman just completed his PhD at UMass in which world languages? He speaks several world languages. Jeffrey's going to teach Spanish here, and he's going to pick up the French class.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. Oh, Jeffrey's interesting. Oh, yeah. I should add this. So he's got a great website with his artwork. He does translations for literary outfits, and he's quite an accomplished visual artist as well. And he comes from a rural community. So we're excited about Jeffrey. And then we've got some interviews taking place.
Got my fingers crossed for a math teacher.
Jeez. Send it out there to the ether. All right. Any other business?
I would just like to share some achievements of some past graduates. For instance, a son of a school board member who just graduated from medical school and is going on to to a residency at Dartmouth Hitchcock
No
in
kidding.
general surgery.
Congratulations.
I
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was a student of mine for 1 year. I was very fortunate.
So wonderful.
And I heard via Facebook that another former student of mine, class of 2014, just received her PhD in neurobiology from the University of Buffalo. That's Savannah Soika from Leiden.
Go Leiden. Go Savannah.
Yeah. So if you know of others, I think it's good to recognize that.
That's wonderful.
This alumni network will help with that.
Yes, I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing those. All right. Upcoming meetings, June 23rd at 5 p.m. District Agreement and Community Relations, and then July 23rd. I don't know. Time marches on without me. And then our next regular meeting is August 8th at 6 p.m.
And Teaching and Learning just
Teaching and
decided this evening to meet on August 20th at 6 p.m.
Excellent.
here.
All right.
Is district agreements meeting here next week, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, you mean right in
In
this
this
room
Oh,
or
well, not
over
at least in
there?
this building.
Yeah.
Or at least at this building. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll find you.
Yeah.
I'll find you somewhere.
Let's meet in my office.
Your office,
Yeah, my
because
office.
she's
Yep,
got
thank you.
the overhead.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Get all the
And our
fun.
August 20th meeting is 6.
6.
Thank you.
Mhm.
That was
All right.
another date. Okay.
Sounds good. All right. So I guess I will take a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Excellent. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
7:29.
Thank you.
I thought you were going to say, I thought she was going to say.
Not bad.
Nicely done.